Welcome to Musician Metaphysics, Episode 5, with my guest, Brandon Miller. Brandon started playing guitar at the age of 7 and always knew that music would be his life's driving force. While most of us were probably busy figuring out how to ride a bike, this guy was already determined to conquer the world with 6 strings. As Miller says, the guitar is an instrument that connects with people, and it's his goal to connect with listeners through it. Connect he does, through his original music that speaks to listeners' emotions, whether through pain, sorrow, or happiness. His music doesn't fit into any specific box, and he's impossible to confine to a single genre. Miller lives for the moment and thrives on connecting with his audience. For him, it's all about taking them on a journey and helping them forget their worries for a while. I had a great time with Brandon, and I know you will too. So now, the man of the hour, Mr. Brandon Miller.
All right, Aiden, you can move that around however you want. I had to get on, like, because John Paul was here, and he was like this the whole time, you know, and I had to, like,
Get up on it.
Come on, dude. Make love to that mic, dude.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. Well, all right, dude, I got the one and the only Mr. Brandon Miller, guitar god.
Well, allegedly.
Human jukebox, right?
I do know a couple songs.
A couple million.
A couple songs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's
Man,
a
I think
double-edged
it's awesome.
sword, but, you know.
Shoot, dude, I remember the first time I was down there when I came to the jam the first time, and I didn't know exactly how it went down, you know, and I was just used to, like, Knuckleheads and, like, Coyote Bill and shit like that, and I was like, man, they're just letting them pick whatever. Like, that's crazy, dude. You got to be a good musician to do that shit.
Yeah, it's a different experience. You know, the Jerry's Jam Night it's primarily a classic rock jam, but we'll do blues and country and
you guys are doing like metal in there.
We were doing anything, you know. People ask, they're like, "Well, what do you play?" And it's like, I don't know. At one moment, you could hear the Beatles or Tom Petty or Aerosmith, and then the next moment, you're hearing Van Halen and Judas Priest, and you know,
and you can
Black
actually
Sabbath,
play the Van Halen. So
yeah, well, you know. You got to be prepared.
You actually have the Van Halen guitar, dude. I mean, so you better be able to play some Van Halen.
Very lucky to have one of those in my collection. So, thank you.
You can't really have one of those guitars and not play Van Halen. Like people would be like, "What the fuck, man?"
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, and you can cuss and you can say whatever you want. We can go as long as you want. We can go as short as you want. There's no rules.
Perfect.
So, but. Yeah, man, you were one of the guys I wanted to get on here for sure. I mean, to be honest with you, I wanted to get you and Danielle, but you know, I guess I'll take you.
We'll start here.
Yeah. So you guys just got back from the Blues Awards.
Yes.
Right, man. You guys look fly, man.
Yeah, thank you very
you
much.
and Go-Go, man. Dude, those hats. You guys rocking those hats.
We even got Go-Go to dress up.
Yeah, dude, he looked good, man.
He was excited. He got 2 new suits to show up and show out in a couple new hats.
Dude, he looked good, man.
So, yeah, we were down at the Blues Music Awards in Memphis about a week or 2 ago, and Danielle was nominated for 2 BMAs this year, instrumentalist for bassist of the year, and then vocalist of the year as well.
That's awesome.
So she came home with the bassist of the year for the...
How many years has she gotten that?
The 5th time now.
Yeah,
she's gotten
that's
that.
awesome.
She was glad to see. We were all glad to see that Shamika won Vocalist of the Year as well.
Right.
So Danielle said if there's anybody she had to lose to,
well, I mean,
the
yeah.
short list would be Shamika. Yeah. So we're very happy.
It's not like she lost to somebody who sucked or something.
Right. Of course.
Man,
everybody's a winner down there, you know.
Yeah, gosh, man, she's so talented, dude. And you have to be quite a secure dude to be able, you know, I mean, for one, you're married to her. 2, you got to play music with her. I mean, and if I imagine, you know, honestly, it's probably, you know, when he first, I don't know, you could maybe elaborate on that. I mean, because I'm sure there's lots of dudes that want to know.
Yeah, you know, it every time we sing together, it's still I'm the only time I'm nervous is when we're you know, like singing together and it's like real stripped down and the harmonies are right there.
Yeah.
'Cause she makes it sound easy and I have to really work for it.
Yeah.
she's a born natural singer, and
She's probably made you a better singer.
she absolutely has.
Yeah.
And it's something that I started playing guitar really young, and I didn't start singing until the very end of high school. So for me it was never an attractive trait to be able to sing. I was just like, well, I'll just play guitar. That's fine. I can just play guitar, But then the older I got, I had several friends and mentors that were like, guitar can take you a long ways, but the more you can do in a band, the better.
For
Whether
real.
it's backing vocals or lead vocals, and it just kind of snowballed into lead vocals and writing my own music.
Which is good too. You got good stuff, man.
Thank
Dude,
you.
Dio loves it.
And it see, I know, right there, bud. And so with Danielle, it's we always joke, at sound check and stuff, she'll be checking her vocal mic and do these elaborate vocal runs and everything, and then they're like, all right, let's get the guitar vocals, and I'm over here just going, check 1 2, check, yep, yeah, what she said right over there. But no, it's always, every time we step on stage is a learning experience, and I never take it for granted with being able to back her up and listening to her sing, and vocalists of that realm, know. There are very few out there that can do what she does.
No shit, man.
And it's very special.
It probably helps that you love her too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, probably helps
Very
some.
much.
Yeah. Dude, and man, she loves you too, man. It's pretty evident. From
special.
people that I've talked to, it's just a lot of good stuff, I think, I've told you the story about the first time I saw Danielle, and I was stoned out of my mind, and I was Jack's intern at the time, because we were doing Jan's benefit.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
and I'd never seen her before, I was still kind of new on the scene, and I yelled, "Have my baby," right when, of course, everybody's quiet and everybody's kind of looks at me like, "What?" And Jack's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" Yeah, it was horrible. But I did get to tell her that story, and she laughed. So
That's good.
Yeah. Gosh, man, I've been known. Now that's back in my drinking days, though. So haven't had a drink about a year and a half now. So
That's good.
well, Dio. Hey, get down, Dio. You know the drill.
Listen to Dad. Hey.
So how long have you guys been on the road and doing that?
I started playing with Danielle. Officially, the band started in 2015. We did a few shows in 2014, kind of the last year of Trampled Underfoot, the last official year. But yeah, there was Nick was and his wife at the time were expecting their second daughter towards the end of 2013, and Trampled Underfoot, they had a few shows towards the tail end of 2013, and Nick needed some time off to be there for the birth of Eva, and so Danielle called and she was like, "Hey, we've got two, our Tough Tuesdays at BB's, and Nick wants to take those 2 off, and would you be willing to fill in and learn some tunes and everything?" And I did those 2 gigs and with Danielle and Chris, and not knowing what was gonna happen,
What was gonna transpire?
And, it was after the.
Was it love at first sight, man?
No,
No?
no, not at all. We had no idea for a long time.
Yeah.
But God, we did those 2. I did those 2 gigs with them, and then I think it was probably like the Wednesday or Thursday after that second Tough Tuesday, she called me, and she was like, "Well, here's the deal. Chris is stepping away from the band in 2014 to take some time off, and they don't know the long-term future of Trampled Underfoot, but as of right now, they're they're going to take some time off and split up and do their own solo things. And Nick's going to do his thing. And she was doing hers, and she was getting, Jan Faircloth to play drums and back her up. And she was looking for a guitar player. And she wanted to not leave the blues, but have a guitar player that was
versatile.
Not strictly blues.
Yeah.
And Nick is fantastic.
Oh yeah,
an amazing guitar player. So she didn't want
Don't tell
anybody
him
that was
Don't tell him that.
right. And so she, she talked to me, and she was like, "Well, I want somebody different from Nick, and that's versatile and can play different things." And she's like, "I don't want it to be like a Trampled Underfoot 2.0, or just like, because Jan played that last year with Trampled Underfoot when Chris left." And
boy, I miss him, man.
So absolutely every day.
Such a good dude.
And so I was on the phone with her, and she's like, "Would you be interested in joining my solo project?" And we'll do a couple shows in 2014, but it'll really kick up in 2015.
Were you like, let me check my calendar?
I actually was. I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Yeah, let me think about it.
Yeah.
Kind of caught her off guard with that, and she was like, okay, well, just let me know what you think.
Good move, dude.
And then I had to, I let it sit for a day or two, and then call her back. I was like, yeah, that sounds cool.
Dude, that had to be hard, man. Was that hard?
She still gives me a hard time about that.
That's funny, man.
I had to play hard to get.
Dude, you got to, man. Got to.
But yeah, so then we, she had already signed a deal with Concord to go down to New Orleans to record her first album, Wolfed In.
Yeah. And
she recorded that with Stanton Moore on drums and Anders Osborne on guitar.
Yeah,
and he produced the album. So I didn't get to play on that album, but I did get to hang out for the whole session.
Oh,
so
that was cool.
Sitting in the same room as Anders, or I'd go sit in the drum room while Stanton tracked all the drums and everything.
That's
and
awesome.
Played it live. So getting to hang out with those cats was just life-changing.
Well, I mean, that must be your life now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's cool, dude.
So
that's maybe you can speak to the musician out there that is like grinding, and like nothing seems to work. You know what I mean? That,
Yeah, it's one of those things that you never know when that door is going to open, and for me, it was kind of just being, the old cliche of being in the right place at the right time. There was, at that point in 2014, I'd come out with my second solo album, and, things were, you could see them on the horizon starting to get bigger and stuff, but then I saw this, chance and opportunity to play with Danielle to not only back up one of the best singers that I've ever played with or heard in my life,
and one of the best bass players ever too.
Absolutely, and to be a part of that and keep a local Kansas City band together, which is really cool, and just kind of expand my boundaries. It opened doors and gave me opportunities and kind of just my knowledge and foundation of the blues music obviously grew playing with Danielle and learning from her.
I would imagine.
Not only musically, but just the history of the blues and different artists that I hadn't been.
Did you ever do any tapping on any of her stuff?
Never have. That's never come up yet. Yet, at least.
Oh man.
But yeah, it was one of those things. It was in the summer of 2013, so it would have been probably 4 or 5 months before I filled in with them at BB's, that we both, Trampled Underfoot and my band, played this blues fest in Kansas City. It was I think just the Kansas City Blues Fest at Caw Point over in KCK, and my band played kind of early evening, and Trampled Underfoot headlined, and they were on tour all the time, and I was out on the road a little bit and just playing, and it was like maybe once or twice a year we'd run into each other
Yeah.
at different places, or I'd show up if they were doing a jam somewhere or something. So I think that kind of, we reconnected there at the festival with the whole band and everything, and it was, I was actually running production a little bit that day too at the festival, so I played my set, and then I got back into my crew get up, it's
Yeah.
black shirt, black pants,
Right.
hat, my working clothes, and and then I walked up to Chris right before their set and everything. I was like, well, here's a backline drum kit, and this is the gear we have. You can use whatever you want, but it's all set up. And of course, Chris is just like, well, drums make noise, right? So that's fine. As long as I don't have to set up my drums, that's fine.
I never got to meet him, man, but
And,
everybody tells me he's the most normal one.
The most normal.
That's what everybody says.
Chris is very special all the time.
That's what everybody says, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No, you're good. And so, Chris was like, yeah, whatever drum kit set up is fine. I don't want to drag mine out of the van and set it up. And he was like, is that Brandon? He's like, I was like, yeah, I'm just working. And so we caught up and everything. And then Danielle ended up calling me on stage to jam at the end of the night.
Right on, man.
And then it's all hearsay, but it's like, well, maybe, that jam. A couple months later, she was like, hey, let's just call Brandon up because that was fun jamming, and
yeah,
got me the gig at BB's, and then
so always be ready to jam.
The rest
right?
is history.
Yeah, right.
Pretty much. So yeah, this is our our 8th year together now.
That's awesome.
Playing. And we recently finished the new album.
You did.
It's been recorded for a while now, but all the edits were done.
All the post.
Mixing's done.
Yeah.
We got it mastered, so everything's finished up.
Nice.
So we're just
When's
tidying
that
up
coming
some
out?
artwork. Some singles will be this summer.
Awesome.
But we're looking at a September release now
Nice,
for the whole
nice.
album. So
Well, be sure to let me know, man.
yeah.
Get it on that Kansas City. I try to do that. I got this Kansas City flavor playlist. Oh, well, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think it's good for other artists to see. One of the best ways to promote yourself is to promote others. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it'll get you in places because they're like, oh, yeah, this guy shares my shit. You know what I mean?
Of course.
I think a lot of times we get too cutthroat, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm one of those people. I'm an ecumenical guy.
Yeah.
I used to get in trouble a lot whenever I was in the ministry and stuff because I would always be wanting to include everybody. And isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Lift each other up.
Yeah, I'm not really well, we'll get to that in a minute. But because I wanted to ask you some more. How long have you guys? When did you guys end up getting married? How did that progression? And if you don't want to talk about this kind of stuff,
we got married very recently in October.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So I knew that.
Yep, you're good.
Duh.
So 7 months.
So I'm anxious because I've been in relationships with people in my band and stuff. It's good. It's good, but sometimes it can be difficult. Because and I imagine somebody like Danielle has a very high standards. And doesn't take any shit. That's what I've heard anyway.
Of course.
Yeah. So I think that's something that you could definitely probably speak to is navigating that. You know what I mean? I think a lot of musicians sometimes I know at least in my experience they get I'm not really trying to say no, you're not playing it shitty or anything. It's just I would like it to be a little bit like this, and sometimes people get really butthurt, and
Right.
Do you have any kind
of we have a working together and playing together and then having the relationship together, we're together a lot.
Yeah.
And for some people that doesn't work, and for us it's always worked, and we've had to find that middle ground of when to turn off the business kind of thing. During the day it's all good, but by the time you've worked all day, whether it's just on the business side of things or you drive for 4 hours and you set up and you play and you do that, and it's you get to the hotel at midnight or 1 a.m. It's the business is off at
Right.
that point. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
there's no more talk of like, oh, well, we should have done this or we should have done that, or, you know, what do you think
Right.
about this gig coming up? And, you know, it's just like
You guys are
have
good at compartmentalizing it. Then,
yeah,
kind
you
of
have
thing.
to know. And even at home, you know, it's like, you know, you drop the boys off at school and then you work all day and you're you know, marketing and the logistics for
Yeah.
the tour, and then you pick the boys up and you have dinner, and then it's 8 or 9 o'clock at night. It's like, by that point, you know, your brain's pretty fried.
Yeah,
So it's like,
sure.
just shut it off
Yeah.
and just be each other and
Man,
be
and
together.
being on the road, dude, is a whole nother animal. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't done it with my own band, but I used to travel around with the Newsboys and Sonic
Yeah.
Flood and all these guys way back in the day when I was a stupid kid. But you know, like it's a life, and that can get really uncomfortable and really, you know what I mean? And especially
Yeah.
if you guys are driving yourselves, you got your own bus, you know, it's not like you're getting on a bus and going to the back and passing out, right?
Right.
So that's a whole nother thing. Who you guys just make go drive?
No, we all drive. You know, we like to have a small operation, and keep it in house as much as possible.
Yeah.
So, Danielle and I drive a lot, and Go will step in whenever he's needed.
Yeah.
So,
I love
you
Go
know,
man.
That's just how it's always been, and we've, you know, throughout the years with different drummers we've had, sometimes it's just Danielle and I driving everywhere.
Yeah.
And we joke that there was a point years ago when we were on tour, we did a big Northeast tour, and we ended up finishing the run with a couple shows in Canada, and we were about 2 hours north of Montreal, and we had to drive all the way home after the gig, and it was just Danielle and I driving. So we drove and we drove and we drove all the way home, and by the time we got home, we had to be in Vegas for a festival like a week after we got home, and then that started our West Coast. So we went Vegas, you know, Phoenix, LA, then all the way up the coast to Seattle, home, and then about a week and a half later we started a Southeast tour in Florida.
Man.
So within roughly a month, the two of us drove from,
I've been everywhere,
you
man.
know, Montreal to San Diego and LA to Seattle to Florida and home.
That's cool. You guys ever write while you're driving?
Yeah,
that
a little
around?
bit. You know, it's one of those things you have to just be in the mood for it.
Oh,
And
yeah,
if you're
sure.
exhausted, and you know, sleep is sometimes more important than that. You know,
Yeah.
but there's a lot of highway time and road time where you're just
Bullshitting.
you know, bullshitting
Yeah.
and coming up with little melodies or little lines, you know, or just lyrics, you know. Luckily, technology has really helped us now where you can write down lyrics or record a voice memo at any given
anywhere.
moment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, there's little ideas, but I wouldn't say that we have, like, started and completed a song on the road.
Right.
You know, it's like, oh, I got this idea from last week at sound check, and you know, you might evolve on that a little bit. But
And so do you have your own album coming out too? Do you have an album coming out?
we will, yes. We just finished mixing it actually yesterday. The live album, we recorded our last show at Knuckleheads in
Oh,
April.
awesome. Yeah.
So yeah, my latest album, Virtue and Vice, was released a couple years back.
It's a great album, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we toured a lot on that, and had a show at Knuckleheads back in April, and recorded that show. And we're like, well, as long as everything turns out okay and we didn't suck tonight,
Right,
you know,
right, yeah.
we'll do our best to release it. And we were happy with how it came out. And
That's
how it
awesome.
came
Did
out
you
mixed.
just do it in house there at Knuckleheads, or did you bring somebody in to record
No,
it?
just in house at Knuckleheads.
Right on. That's cool, man.
So we did that and mixed it down with Dwayne at Weights and Measures.
Heck yeah, you can't go
who's,
wrong with Dwayne.
You know, I believe the best in town.
I'll be there. I'll be down there tomorrow. Actually,
There you go. Well, tell him hello.
I will.
And
I will.
so yeah, we just finished that up and getting the artwork finalized, and that'll probably be out in late August, September,
Awesome.
about the same time as Danielle. So
Awesome, man.
just something.
Oh, so you guys are going to be competing, man?
Yeah. Just something we're working. I'm writing right now for the new album, so it's something that will carry us over to the next album, as well as just seeing the growth of where the Virtue and Vice album started. Where we never played those songs live. We just went into the studio, cut them, and then once the album released, then played them.
Right.
And so it's it's cool to see how they've grown and evolved from what those songs meant a couple years ago to where they mean now. Because it's songwriting and music. At different points in your life, the songs and the words mean different things.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And how they evolve, it's always been mind-blowing to me. It's like, well, I wrote it at that time about this, but fast forward 5 years down the road and you're like, well, now
it's almost like you wrote it for that
different.
time.
It's a
crazy.
timestamp. So
it's transcendental.
Yeah, so we play some of the songs. It's like we play a little different. They have a little different meaning, and we wanted to capture that and capture the live sound of this band with Dylan and Go-Go, and it turned out really well. We're
That's
really
awesome.
happy with
Well,
it.
cool. I'm excited to hear it, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, dude. I recorded.
And we couldn't decide what songs to cut, so we it'll be a double LP.
Nice.
On vinyl, and then it'll be my first double CD as well.
Right on. So I'm anxious to hear about the vinyl. Like, how early? I mean, the last time I checked on vinyl, it was like 6 months out, and like $1,200 for 15.
Yep.
Right.
Vinyl does get expensive, but there's such a market for it now,
right?
More than ever.
Vinyl outsold CDs for the first time since like decades and decades ago. Last year,
yeah, and there's a market for it, and it's an investment for the vinyl for sure. But I've felt that it's very worth it, and a vinyl album looks way cooler on
it looks awesome.
Than a CD.
Yeah,
so
I'm gonna do some vinyl on my next album too. Yeah. I did CDs on Blood and Sand, and I printed 50 of them, and I sold 50, and that was it. It's like once I got rid of the last one, I was like, John Paul calls them coasters,
right? Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like,
and it's hard. It's one of those things. We sell a lot of different merch and things.
Yeah. You do screen printing and stuff too, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's a good thing for you to know. I don't mind. Even though I do graphic shit too, mine's totally different though. You know what I mean? Mine's. Yeah. So if you need something like right away, this is the guy to go to. I know you did. You printed up hammers. I did that logo for him.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, the Uproot logo. Yeah,
that's sweet.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Well, cool.
But it's like you were, John Paul joking about the CDs being coasters. It's like, we still do sell quite a few CDs, and it's strange because. We joke. It's a lot of people are like, I don't even have a CD player. I don't
just
have
want
one
to have
in my
it
car now.
But
it's a souvenir.
Yeah.
And it's something for the band to sign and they can take home.
Yeah.
And it's not another T-shirt.
Right.
Because
sure.
All of us music lovers. It's like 100 black T-shirts in the closet.
Sure.
Like,
my whole wardrobe is my
one
stuff.
More, So.
Yeah. You always need one.
So the CDs are something that are relatively affordable and small, and the band can sign it, and they can walk out of the show with a souvenir.
Cool. Yeah. Right on.
Because the vinyl is a little bit more of an investment, and you have to take care of it and care for it, and you have to have a turntable, and some I understand most people just like everything digital and on their phone, which is fine. But they do want to have a souvenir that they can sign, and they want to support the band somehow other than just buying a ticket. And
sometimes if their hair is as white as mine, they actually have CD players.
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
I have several.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. How long has that jam you guys been doing at Jerry's? Something like 20 years or something like.
We've been doing it we just celebrated 22 years.
22 years. Gosh.
And I've been going to that now for 21 years this summer.
How old are you?
33.
30. You're 33?
I am.
God, I thought you were way older than that.
It's the beard. It's the beard. It adds. I've been told it adds 10 years on me.
Yeah.
So.
Whenever I have a beard,
maybe one day I'll shave it off and then I'll look 10 years younger.
You will, dude. Nobody's gonna know who you are. They're gonna be like, "What? Who is that guy?" But that is something, man. It's like the guys at Nux, in Levittown at Nux. They've been doing that for like 15 something years, dude. That's really cool thing to have. You know what I mean?
It's wild to for any music venue to be around that long and the jams to go for that long.
Yeah.
As well as, just you look at all the hardships that not only the people go through and the fans on their personal level, but as a business.
Yeah. Shoot.
Through all the economy
and COVID. I mean, they made it through COVID.
It was wild. Wow. And Jerry's it's one of those crazy places. There was, it started out in Lenexa. That's the original location, and they had a location in downtown Lee Summit for, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years. It wasn't that long. But it closed down. But I mean, Jerry's used to be, and it's still a happening spot and busy all the time.
Gosh, every time I go in there, you can't even sit down.
It just goes through phases where it's like when it started out, and Justin Collette and Scotty McBee that started it, the hosts originally, and Brett Boulay, he joined on shortly after.
Cool last name.
all those cats were like, in their late 20s, early 30s. And man, it would be such a party atmosphere there.
Yeah.
And all those cats, they grew up, listening to all the 80s hair bands and stuff.
Heck
so
yeah, that's what I cut my teeth on.
It was just a party all the
yeah.
time. And you'd go in there and it'd be like, just
Dawkins and Rat.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it was Poison and Motley Crue.
The Lynch Mob.
All of it, all the time.
That's awesome.
That's where I learned a lot of the 80s hairband material.
You play it great, dude.
Thank you.
You do.
My parents grew up listening to the music of the 70s and stuff, so I was the Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Rush era. But you go into Jerry's and it was just a party atmosphere, and they didn't have as many responsibilities back then. So it was like everybody's drinking and partying, and I'm just a 13-year-old kid watching all this. And, it gets to the point of the night where it just feels like the roof is going to blow off at Jerry's. And they're like, all right, now we're going to do a free shot, and they do a shot line and a conga line through the bar. And you're just like, man, this place is nuts.
It's cool.
And then now it's still just as packed, but it's a different clientele, and everybody's a little more chill. But they still just love the music there, and they pack it in.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky to be able to get to do this.
Well, it's a great jam, dude. It's a really great jam. I really had fun the first time I went because I'm one of those people. I don't talk about my playing. You know what I mean? I play, and
you have to play and do the talking.
Yeah. And I had set with these guys that I didn't know, but I asked them to watch my guitar, and I was talking to these guys, and I was just like, I play a little bit. Went on bullshitting tonight, and then you called me up there, and we had a great set. It was really cool, and I got Go-Go to stay up there with me.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh yeah, you play the guitar,"
Yeah.
But I mean, I just never been. Usually, I've found in my life the guy that's talking himself up the most is probably not the best.
Right. Yep.
And that doesn't.
It never ends well.
Yeah, and that can be. Doesn't even have to be guitar playing. It could be anything.
Yeah.
The loudest guy is usually the biggest pussy.
I hear you.
I might have to beep that word out.
That's okay. Put a D.
I said you can say everything, but people get weirded out nowadays, man.
It happens.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're we do the jam each and every Wednesday, 8 to midnight, roughly. But I do it every Wednesday that I'm in town and not on tour. And when I'm on tour, I've got a couple guys that'll fill in for me and,
Heck yeah.
and help out. But it's a lot of fun, and it's the best description that we've come up with for it is live band karaoke.
Yeah.
Where if you want to get up and you just want to sing, and you've never sang with a live band before, or you do it all the time, you get up and, we have a song list of roughly 600 songs.
Yeah, I mean,
and you just look it up and you sign up and you can get up and sing, or if you just want to play bass or just drums or guitar, keyboards, bring your keyboards, or if you want to have your whole band come audition, it's like, yeah, we'll give you 3 songs as a band, and you come audition, and then more than likely you'll get a gig. You know, that's how you do it. You kind of get a showcase. And for some people, it's a chance for them to try new songs that they've never done. For other people that have always thought about playing in a band,
right?
It's like, well,
can feel what
come
it's like,
try it,
and
and some people, they're like, I've always wanted to sing in a band, and they're like, I know I'm not very good, but these are my 2 songs a week that I get to be a rock star. And
Heck
like,
yeah,
cool,
dude!
Come on.
I mean, I don't care who you are. It takes balls just to get on the stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's people, that sometimes it can get a little annoying, because it's like it's been 5 years and it's just, you know what I mean? It's like there's no progression here,
right.
But still, I have to try and always be like, well, gosh, dude, it's a jam. And when you have these people that freak out at jams and stop songs, and it's like, it's just a jam, guys. Don't take it too seriously.
Absolutely.
And I have to do that at shows. I have to tell myself that, because sometimes PTSD is weird, man. Because sometimes it'll show up exactly when you don't want it to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like, I had Tilney on the last podcast, and was talking about anxiety, and I was like, oh, well, you've seen me before a show. And he's like, yes, I've seen him before. Sometimes I can get, but I'm getting better about that stuff. It's just, it can be, and it's nothing like being on the road and having shit go bad. You're on the road and your guitar and your amp fry out, and you don't have backups. It's like, that's pretty stressful shit.
Yeah.
Or like Nick, the bus breaks down and he runs 5 miles to,
right?
you know what
never
I mean?
know. Changing flat tires on the side of a road.
Yeah.
Whatever state you're in.
Dude. So I guess this might be a good place to transition to the metaphysics. I mean, do you have any kind of spiritual thing that you fall back on in stressful stuff or in hard stuff? Is that any kind of thing that you do in your life, or
nothing too spiritually, but it's I always have felt that we're you could say lucky or blessed, any of those adjectives, but I feel I'm lucky to be able to get to do what I do for a living.
For sure,
Pay my bills and do that.
Yeah.
So it could always be worse. I have a roof over my head and food on the table and a beautiful family.
Yeah.
But, it could be much worse. So even when the times are tough and it's dark out there on the road, and, there's still times where, we'll get in the van and, even with my guys, it's like, all right, well, we got to drive to Detroit, or, 12 hours away, and you get there and there's, 12 people in the room because it decided to snow a foot that night.
Right.
You're like, well, we still get to play music, and we're still having
real
fun, so, we're lucky to get to do it, and just always I've always looked for the positive side of things to not let those negative things bring
That's
me
good.
down.
That's good. So do you believe, what do you believe? Do you believe in God or anything like that?
It changes all the time.
Does it?
You never know. Some weird things happen.
Yeah, totally.
Whether it's karma or it's coincidence, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Danielle? Is she a spiritual person at all?
She believes in the positivity and the energy that you put around you.
Right. Yeah. I believe in that too,
So,
man.
you put good people around you and good energy,
you're gonna get good stuff.
Good things are gonna happen.
That's absolutely true. It's kind of like the, I had to, for 10 years, man, I was just so fucked up, man, from, a lot of my friends, they still keep killing themselves, and battling it with that in my own way.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's the president. But it was really, it was last year at Nux on Memorial Day at the Jam. I was like, you care if I play taps, and I played taps on my guitar. I could barely stand. I had to sit down on the drum riser because it was kind of like it was just a real symbolic thing. It was like Tom Cruise throwing the goose's dog tags off the end of the ship, And
Yeah.
I literally took off this suicide bracelet that I had been wearing for 10 years because I didn't want to kill myself anymore. Well, it wasn't really that I was walking around wanting to kill myself. It's like you go through this thing where it's like, I don't really deserve to be alive. You know what I mean? Because it's like, why am I alive? And, all these other people aren't. But music is like, if I didn't have music, I probably wouldn't be here. So
Mm-hmm.
I have had to like, and I was all into Christianity. I was a minister for a while,
Yeah.
if you can believe it.
No, it's all good.
but it's just like there's so much. There's so many holes,
Yeah.
and so that didn't help really. And it wasn't until I was just like, I just need to start thinking better. I just need to start getting around people that are more.
Yeah.
And that's really, there's a lot to be said for that, dude.
Absolutely.
Because if you're always around somebody that's constantly, like, God, life sucks. This is shot, right?
Yeah.
It manifests.
Absolutely.
I'd like. Now I'm not exactly 100% one of those. I manifest my destiny. If I just I'm manifesting.
Right. No, totally. No, but there's got to be some kind of higher energy or higher power or something else out there, that reflects your thoughts and your beliefs.
Yeah. Gosh, man.
In terms of energy.
If you get into quantum physics and stuff, there could be like 10 other. There's 10 other yous, man.
Yeah.
There's a guy that's a better singer than he is guitar player.
Right. I know. I'm looking for that guy.
Shoot, man.
Trying to find him.
You're a good singer, man. Dude, it's recording. It's always the one that gets you when you're like, is that really my voice?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
All the time. Every recording I hear of myself
Yeah.
is the worst recording I hear of myself.
Right, yeah. Everybody else will be like, no, it sounds fine. And you're like, really? Man, I don't.
They tell me it sounds good, but I think my voice is terrible. So
what were
luckily
you?
I can play guitar.
Well, and you write good music too, man. Like you brought up Virtue and Vice. The words to that song are very good. They're great, man. Actually, and as somebody who's 9 years in the Army, it kind of spoke to me, in that because it's totally true, dude. Like, I don't know. I think in the music world, musicians can be assholes. We can be, and I try to live by the Quincy Jones, ego is just insecurity dressed up, is what he says, like have some swagger, but don't be an asshole,
Yeah.
And I think, I don't know, that's just kind of my whole deal now, but it's difficult, dude. I mean, I had a little meltdown, I try not to be negative, but sometimes it's like, you bust your ass so hard and you just grinding, and it just seems like you get in this place where you're like, well, I deserve that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why didn't I get that gig? Or why didn't, and
Yeah.
if you find yourself in that place, just try to get out of there as fast as you can. Because I know for me, it'll derail me to where, it's like, why am I even playing music? It's like,
Totally.
yeah.
And I a good friend of mine, for many years, it was, I would talk to him and have lunch, and we'd meet up and talk about, the good energy and the good vibes that you put out and everything. And, it's like, oh man, I'm really worried about next month. It's a slow month of gigs, and am I going to pay my bills or this or that? And he's like, a while ago, I stopped worrying about, I know I have work, it may not always be as much as I want,
Right.
but it's going to be enough to pay the bills. And
Right.
if not, I'll figure out a way
Figure
to do
out
it.
something
And
else.
he told me that, and he's like, I started thinking that way, and it was like, oh man, I don't have any work this week. And then out of nowhere, it's like, hey, I need a last minute
Right.
gig or
Yep.
whatever may call, or a check that I forgot about showed up in the mailbox or
Right.
something. And
My Spotify check just came in.
yeah, $4. Yeah. If it was a good month.
Right.
So it's one of those things. It's like, those gigs happen, not all the time, but where it's like, oh, it's a little bit of a slow month, and at the last minute something pops up, and you're
Sure.
like, see, I needed to stop worrying about it so
Yeah.
much.
No, it's
and let
so
it figure
true.
itself out.
So true. Like
And it balances, it ebbs and it flows, and there's good months and bad months, and you just ride the waves.
Yeah, for sure, man. The person I think that really showed that to me, I don't know, when I first met Jan, I was still in my victimhood thing, like every other conversation would be like, oh yeah, well in Afghanistan. You know what I mean? Like, and I knew Jan for 6 months and never knew he had terminal cancer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we became friends doing these Levittown jams out at the scrapyard and over smoking pot,
Yeah.
getting high. And for his benefit, I literally made a tub of pot brownies. I had them underneath I had a Tupperware jar,
Yeah.
He tried to take all of them too.
Of course.
I was like,
That's
Jan,
Jan.
no, I gotta. But
that's how Jan was.
yeah, and like when I found that out, it totally changed my entire life, because it was like, I'm sitting here and I have life to live, and I'm hating life because of a bunch of stupid crap that happened in my past, and this guy is dying and he's living his life like he's not, and it was just amazing to me, and like, I don't know, I'll never forget it.
Yeah.
So
Special guy.
fuck yeah, man. Fuck yeah. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, you're good. we
Shoot.
talk about stories of Jan and Chris on the road all the time. It's like, whether it's the clubs we've played or, stupid shit that happens at truck stops at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Those two get brought up all the time with us.
That's cool, man. I think that they would like that. They'd want
Absolutely,
that,
yeah.
man. I hesitate to share this. Well, I guess I already have, but I've had these moments where I literally have had Jan call me a pussy. like,
Yeah.
like, where are you at, dude?
Yep.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
Quit being a pussy, Fletch.
And and Jan and I, we roomed together quite a bit on the road. We were roommates, so it was.
So you probably
we
got
to
some
know
good.
each other really well.
Yeah,
on the
man,
road.
what a great dude.
Yeah.
I remember the first time I met him, when I first came on the scene, I got this job. I was running the All-Star Bar because he was going to give me a bunch of stage time, and then
Yeah.
I was going to charge him a bunch, and it needed it. I don't know if you had ever been out there, but and I had Stonecutters were coming out to do a gig, and so I booked it through Jan,
Yeah.
and then seen him at jams, eventually. I mean, I've only been around. I've been here in Oklahoma or in Missouri since 2014 when I got out of service, and then I came up here because my family was up here, and I was all fucked up. But I didn't really start playing music out until 2019. I finished my master's degree in theology.
Yeah.
And that same, right after that was over, I decided to lock myself in my studio apartment and record my first album and do music. I was like, I got it. All this other shit isn't working,
Yeah.
And so I've only really been here for about 4 years, and then my first experience was Billy Ebling's jam, on Saturday.
On Saturday.
Oh, I love Billy, dude.
Billy's wonderful.
Oh yeah, dude, and his humor is the best. He's actually my next episode is Billy Ebling.
Nice.
So yeah, I call him Billy Everything because he literally plays everything.
He is wonderful.
And I walked in. I didn't know. I literally looked up every jam there was in town. I was like, because I had this idea. You know, my record on Spotify the first time it came out, dude, and I'm nobody. I had sent some stuff to these guys in Europe that were playing my tracks, and I had like 7,000 streams. I was like, oh shit. So I'm like, I'm going on tour. You know, just like,
of course,
okay, right? Yeah,
gonna take over the world.
Yeah.
Like
you know, like, oh, I gotta get a band. I better go to these jams. You know, it's just all these things. You know, and then you realize real quickly. You know, the freight train of reality hits you, you know. But I walked in there with I had a 1x12 amp, you know, and a pedal board case. And I walked in there and you know, you walk in and everybody's staring at you and you're like, oh shit. And Billy goes from the stage into the mic. He goes, you don't need those.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Strike one.
Yeah. But then we were friends ever since. And Saturday was like, I always tease, or I always tell Frank, I'm always like, you know, Saturday, I love coming on Saturdays because like I'm like a rock star on Saturday, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'd show up because I was there so much, like I'd show up, Billy'd just leave, you know, put me on the stage and just leave.
Put you to work for a while.
Yeah. And so then I started going on Sundays and I'd be like, you know, on Sundays, you'd only get noticed if you did something really, really good or really, really bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? Other than that, nobody really gives a shit. You know, so it's funny.
It's funny to see the difference between the two jams on
It
Saturday
is, yeah.
Too, you know? They're both wonderful, but they do have their different characteristics about them.
Completely. And it's all because of Jack.
It is Jack's fault. It's always Jack's fault.
Yeah, I mean, he's always such an asshole to everybody, and you know, gosh, I don't know how he's still doing this.
If he could practice a little
I know, just once maybe.
Yeah.
I literally just did a gig I did Nice Music Monday last night at the Hideout. So.
Yeah.
Gosh, dude, 3 hours on an acoustics workout.
Yeah.
And I just bought this. I bought a new guitar for it and everything. You know, I was like, oh, this is gonna be way easier. It's the Fender Malibu with the kind of the electric style neck. Nah, it's not even. Not any.
That's funny. It's like you know, when COVID happened, you know, it was we were sent home and. You know, we're like, oh, yeah, you know, we'll just take a couple weeks off, maybe a month off, and then it's back to normal, right?
Right.
And, you know, you fast forward like 2 or 3 months, and then you're like, you know, the deer in the headlights hit you, and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, this is
nothing's
real.
Happening. And the only thing I could do was acoustic gigs around town, you know? It was like play outside on the patio or, you know, just the one-man band thing.
Yep.
And I was doing like 3 or 4 acoustic gigs a week, it felt like, and just as much as I could to
it's good
to
for
pay
your
the
chops.
bills. And it was like, man, I finally went back to like play a couple gigs on electric guitar a couple months later, and I was just like crushing the strings. And you know, it's like I've always played 11s on my guitars.
You play 11s?
I always like the heavier strings. And even like getting back on my Les Paul with 11s, I was like, just bending them all over the place like butter.
I can't do 11s anymore.
And but you know, it's I've always been an 11s guy.
Give it 10 years. Wait till you're my age.
Everybody says that. They're like, you just wait. And you know, between the heavy Les Paul and the heavy strings, but there was a time I was probably 15, 16, and I really dove into the Stevie Ray Vaughan catalog.
Yeah,
too.
sure.
And
gotta have the fat strings.
I did you know, I was like, well, Stevie said he played like 12s or 13s.
Dude, they were even heavier than that.
It was like
insane.
So I think I did
shit.
13s once for a couple gigs. That was pretty intense.
Yeah, dude.
But it sounded great. But.
I remember one of the first gigs I did over here. Let's see, it was in Overland Park, so at Hurricane Alley's. The first set, my strings on my Strat. One of my strings popped, right? So I went to grab my SG, and my SG I all set up for slide, so way heavier strings. Mm-hmm. I think there were 11s on it, or maybe 12s, because it was just for slide, you know. And I had to play a whole set on those, and it was like my fingers were bleeding, you know.
Yeah.
But since then, you know, if you play every day and you don't play the same guitar all the time, you know, it's pretty good for your hands, you know. And last year I had I was doing these gigs every other week at Hook and Reel, and they were acoustics, and I had people coming in. I think I was going to get you on one.
Yeah.
Eventually, I can't remember what happened. Oh, yeah, I remember she stopped paying me, so I stopped going.
Oh, that's a good reason.
Yeah. But, man, that was great. That was actually when me and Nick started playing a bunch. We did a couple there, and then some at the Marriott in Overland Park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were fun.
Very cool.
I love Nick, man. He's a good dude. It's funny. Oh well, I'm not gonna say that.
We'll save that. For
Yeah,
later.
we'll say that.
We'll save that for off
Off
air.
camera.
Off camera.
Yeah. But man, well, dude, I really appreciate you coming out, man.
Yeah, man.
and
Thank you for
doing
having
the
me.
podcast.
This is fun.
Little caveat. So I really screwed up the first time I was going to have Brandon out, and I get this call on my phone, and it's 10 o'clock, and Brandon's showing up here at 10 o'clock, and I'm just waking up. So, I'm like, bro, oh man, it's like one of those nights I couldn't sleep.
It's all good.
So this is a testament to how cool of a guy he is. He really is. Because you didn't have to do that.
We make it work.
Yeah, dude, that was really cool of you.
Show business.
Man, I appreciate it, dude.
Thank
You
you.
never
for
know,
having me.
because sometimes people that are up there in their career and doing, they can just be
no.
they can be complete
We put our
a-holes.
pants on the same way.
Yeah,
you know?
well, I hope so.
So I'm just glad Dio let me hang with him for the day.
Yeah, dude, Dio.
He's supervising.
Yeah. This is how he got his legs. Oh yeah. This is how
Yeah.
he lays
Oh,
around,
yeah.
man. He's
That's comfy.
yeah. That's the way I lay too most of the
Yeah.
time. Well, thanks, man.
Thank you very much for
thanks
having me. I
coming out.
appreciate it.
Yeah, the power of editing. So I just.